Hello, all. I don't know if you can hear me. You should be able to. In fact, I don't need this headset. So let me just double check my mic, and we're on the right mic. Um, excuse me. Need to clear my throat. So welcome this week. Busier. Last week busy. This week even busier. So apologies, I was stuck on a call there. Um, Speaking about some projects and WordPress. If any of you have heard of WordPress, so I might join a small WordPress consortium, not the official consortium, but consortium as in a small group for those who want the difference. So let me share my screen. And where are we? So let me see if I can share my screen, and we'll cover a few things that I've looked at this week. I'll share my entire screen, and I'll do this one, I think. And there we go. Okay, share screen. So yeah, I'm sharing my screen here, and I think you can see my mouse. So let's start with something funny. I thought I lost all my bookmarks. That would have been hell. But Google has introduced this thing where you can save your bookmarks in your Gmail account. So because I wasn't signed in yet, my bookmarks weren't there. I need to tweak that. I don't really need them in the Gmail account. I mean, it's useful, but I also need them permanently here in my Chrome browser, whether I'm signed in or not. So thankfully, I've got them, and not much, no more scare or panics there. So I'm going to close that. Now to look at a few things here. So this was a small CMS that I built a while back. You can see it's not finished. Some pages are not working. But it was a small CMS because I was thinking, how about I create a CMS for sort of a small vertical where the customer is going to want to update their own homepage. They're going to want to update their own gallery and shop. I think if I pull this up, I don't know if this updates the homepage or not. Here we are here. Let's see if it does. So premium goods for your lifestyle. I don't know if I could see them here. And let's go to home. Wasn't sure. Yeah, as you can see, the front end isn't really finished as well, but the back end, you've got this WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get editor. Again, you can the plan was to let the user update and save their pages. Because it's not finished, the front end features are not working, the back end features are not working. But I just thought I'll show you, in case one of you has an idea to build your own CMS, it can be dusted off again. That's that. And then I found this one I created years ago as well. Must be at least 3-4 years now, where I was thinking, what about if we wanted our own forms tool? And the forms tool meaning it's a drag and drop tool. Now both of these so far I should mention were coded customly. So this is full code, lots of code, and not no code or low code. Okay, so the aim was basically develop a form tool like forms.com or .io where you can build your own form and then have the form data in a JSON format where the user can use that data to process, or the engineer can process it into another area. So you could drag inputs like this. You can name them as well. Let's do first name, last name. You could have things like radio buttons in there, a couple of drop downs. This was one of my early uses of getting code from LLMs, and this was from ChatGPT. Have a button in there. So some things, let's say submit. Oh, where's our button gone? It's a bit fidgety. I can see the drag and drop. There's an issue there. If you double click. So yeah, to have something like this, and then let's say, let's go in here. Oh, let's get rid of this one. And let's say, again, you can see this one is not finished. However, some bits are working. So you can see I submitted my thing there. And let's see if that updates. Let's write. Oh, so that was the text area. So let's do option 1. And you've got option 2 as well. Okay, option 2. And let's add something in here as well. Radio button one there. So this should have been a drop down, but let's add something in here. And I'm thinking an AI developer. So here we go, and you can see the bit of tweaking. This shouldn't take too long to wrap up. And like I said, the idea is once you get your form data, behind the scenes, the engineer or developer will take that data and pass it on to another part of the system or software to process. So usually it's pass and parcel. So it's like from an API. So you fill out a form data, an API listens for submissions, and does something with that data. So close that there. And now we have so a couple of other little cool tools that I saw this week. Now these are not mine. They're really, really cool tools that I saw. So first is this one here called Seed Generator. Now this came about from a search, Google search I did, because I'm looking for building and testing a couple of data sets, more specifically SQL database tables. So I need to generate some data for those. So let's say the table is called users. I found this cool tool that you can use for that. And if you've got a table called users, you want, let's say 5 records, you just generate your data like that. And technically this is called seed data. So this gives you insert statements. And these are what I use in SQL databases such as MySQL, Postgres, or SQLite, or MS SQL, which is the Microsoft one, and Oracle. These are very similar syntax and statement. So then you just take these and paste them into your database engine, and boom, you've got your 5 users. So if you wanted another table, let's say called cars, let's say 120 of those, 20. Just generate it. Now I'm unsure if this will get overwritten, but let's find out. Yeah, so what I would have done in this tool is when I create seed data, have a checkbox that says keep current seed or not. But apart from that, really cool tool. It's provided by this company called easecloud.io, as you can see up here. I'm not a partner with them or in any way, but shout out to them. It looks like they've got a few more tools down here. Docker file generator, environment file generator, git ignore, Docker compose, API routes, Apache. Now I've worked with all of these in the past, apart from this guy, I think. This could be quite useful. Let's have a look. So this is to create API endpoints. As you can see, they'll work with a lot of popular Node.js frameworks. And I know for a fact it'll work with frameworks in Java and in .NET as well, and other programming languages with a bit of tweaking. So let's have a look. So let's say we've got Engineers Express. Again, I've used all of these here. I've used Express the most, and Nest and Fastify. You want to get, that's your method. If you don't know about REST methods, you could go and look them up, or I can introduce them next time. Again, this is very codey stuff, none of the AI automation stuff here, so you might be confused, but it's not your fault, it's not my fault. It's just you don't know this stuff, and you might not have coded it before. So get, used to get stuff, users, books, houses, phones from a database. The path is your endpoint. So you'd have something like this. So behind the scenes here, let's say to return this page, easecloud probably call an NPI endpoint that looks like this. So it will be, no, not type here, easecloud.io, and then they would have like API. This is the standard, and then of how it's designed. Then you'd have V1 if it's version 1, and then you'd have users. Okay, some people might have get users to really drill down the endpoint and its specificity. However, it's better designed to have users. So behind the scenes, get will be called, but then when you want to add a users, you might call the same endpoint, but the method will be a post. This is what we use to add data to a resource. Okay, so this is what you do to add a resource, or to add data to a resource. So users, and then as it tells you, get all users. So I'm going to generate that there. And there you go. That's quite cool. I've developed something like this in pure JavaScript. So this is quite useful for scaffolding your API logic and code quite quickly. So get users, express. I won't go into all of these. Here's the actual endpoint, API users. It gets the user, and it tells you it might return the user's record, or there's an error. Okay, so let's say posts. Yeah, that was the post. Let's do get. Apologies, I was looking at the post. There you go. So get, you see, all it changes that part there. And that's it really. So get is a method up here. But post we've also got put and patch. Put, I believe, was to update a whole record. Patch is to update a part of a record, and delete is to delete the record. So this is very known stuff, very common out there in the software engineering world. Now, when you're working with APIs, so how is this relevant? A lot of you are using API automation, AI automation, I should say, very high level. Behind the scenes, each function, each button you press, each time you connect another node in N8N, in Zapier, this is what's going on. It's API calls, okay? 90% of the time, 95% of the time, this is what's happening. Could be a few other little events that take place, but this is really what's going on. It's each event, each process or method or function nowadays, especially in the automation AI workflow tools, it's just API calls. So let me give you a quick little example here. Let's get rid of what's not needed. Oh, give me this guy. So we're going to do, let's do Dillinger. In fact, yeah, here we go. Quite like Dillinger because it's quite, it's a markdown tool. So this is quite useful as well. I use this a lot for documentation. Quite nice to make notes with. So we could have something like this, right? So let's say this is get, what's it gonna, let's get Google Sheet, okay? Let's get Sheet. So this, the way this will be designed is like this. So in your N8N and in Zapier, when you bring a new trigger or a node to get a Google Sheet, what that will do behind the scenes is something like this. It's an API endpoint, and it will get the sheet. Okay, to be more specific, you could call it Google Sheet if you want. And that's it. That's all it does. It goes and calls some other code to connect to Google, authenticates, and gets your sheet. And it might be based on ID. You just want to get one sheet, and the ID will be passed through there. An ID will be passed in a bit high level. So when you call this trigger or method, the ID will be saved in a variable like this. And for now, let's just say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our, this is a comment here, by the way, guys. Google Sheet ID. So each Google Sheet has an ID. You would plot it there, and it becomes ID variable. And then that gets called here in our endpoint in the node. So each time you trigger it, it calls API Google Sheet, and it says, I also need the ID. And the ID is placed in there automatically. And then if that's successful, the sheet will be returned to the user in whatever way it's been described or designed to be returned, in a pop-up, in a page, a part of it, a chunk of it, whatever. Okay, if it's not returned, you return no sheet, you return a message or some form of error. Okay, and that's it. So this trigger or zap, whatever they call them, behind the scenes, this is just what's going on. Okay. And this is get, remember in REST and in APIs, we have get, post, bit, patch. If you wanted to update that sheet, it's almost the same way. However, the function is called post. So again, we'll pass in the ID before, and we would return it as well, but would only return it after we've updated it. So there's an update logic, get logic. Okay, so you could move implement because we're implementing it or showing how it's implemented just now. So here we would do okay. So let's say it's row 1 sheet dot row 1, and would add some string name equals, okay, something like this. So you've got your sheet, the ID is passed in here. So sheet get the ID dot row 1. So in row 1, add a column name and the value shape. Okay, and then return the updated sheet. If this fails for whatever reason, there will be an error. So this time no sheet updated. So we know something wrong has happened. And that's it. So I hope this nugget will help you guys a lot. And so you really know what's happening behind closed doors, in your N8N and Zapier, what's happening under the hood. Okay, so that was first cool little tool, that's all. The second one was this one here. So you could design your SQL, which is your data schema. Some of you have heard of this. Obviously, engineers will have done, or some of you not. Again, data in each record, in Sheet, in N8N, and all these workflow tools are stored in these database engines behind the scenes. Whether you like it or not, the more you learn about this stuff, the more it will help you. So let's paste some SQL. Let's just type it in here. Great table. These two are reserved words. They have to be created this way. In some of these database engines, these have to match the casing as well, so it can't get it wrong. And then your table name for users. And I'm just going to check out the syntax again there. And we're just going to add 2 columns. So think of it just as a Google Sheet for those of you who have never seen a database design before. ID big int primary. And then, so these are the actual columns. So ID first, int primary key, and then you might need a comma or not, I'm not too sure in this one. And then let's just have username. Now the int and the primary are just the data types. The primary is a key to make sure this column is known as a key field, and varchar is to describe it as a well, the int also means you can only enter numbers in there, in that column, and varchar for username means you can enter numbers and letters. Okay, and this has to, varchars have to be given a length, so we'll use 255 characters, which is the max, and int doesn't need a length. So let me have a look at the sample again. And primary keys don't need to be told if they're null or not. Varchars and other data types have to be told when they're loaded, when it's created, will it be null or not? So we'll say it's not null, meaning we'll add in data right away. Okay, and let's do import. And this should create our table called users. And you can see how nice the interface is. Obviously, it's huge and it's zoomed in, but we could zoom out. Okay, so users. So this will show you how databases look like behind the scenes, what your records look like, your login table, whatever question you might have, this will answer it. So let's say we've got users. They log into your website or app, or even your AI workflow. You've got users table, like in Zapier. I think they've got something called tables. You could, can we duplicate this? Let's see. Duplicate table. Yeah, let's just quickly duplicate it. And there we go. So users, let's say they have profiles, because each user has a profile, and you need a username for the profile, and let's just say text. This, let's call it description, because each profile will have a description field, right? So, and there you go. And in profiles, to know whose profile this belongs to in standard traditional SQL, like what we're doing here, we have um, we have the reference. So we have referential integrity, as it's called, because these are structured query languages. They're structured, but they're also connected together with references. Now, the references are the primary keys and foreign keys. So in users, we have primary key, the ID. That was copied over into profiles, but we don't want it in profile as a primary key. We can keep it. In fact, it's good practice to keep it. But how do we know when we're looking at profile which user it belongs to? So in profiles, to do that, we add a column code, user ID. Okay, that's to be called int as well. And then basically you just, to design it as a diagram fully in SQL, you connect the primary key from users to the foreign key of user ID. Now user ID, we could say default value. So usually you set this to be a foreign key. Oh yes, we could select it here. So thinking here, foreign keys are called, and then primary keys and unique keys can be indexes as well. I believe in here, maybe it's called the unique key, which means it's unique, but it's also foreign key. I'm not too sure. But anyway, that would be a foreign key. So then when you're in profiles and you call this profile, which will all have different IDs per profile, you need to know which user it belongs to. So you look at user ID in the profile and you're like, it belongs to this user here. That could be Bob or whoever. So this is another cool tool that I saw, and this is on drawsql.app. So this designs our database diagrams. So I'll go back. This was, yeah. So remove the API stuff, like what we did here. So this in databases and in the data engineering world, what you'd always do first is design your data diagram, or known as the data model, like this. Once you've designed it, the seeding, this comes right the last step once it's built and you're ready to add data into it. So once you've designed it, next you test it out. So it's testing some query and some small tables here. So to test it out, you build a table in here. And this is a really cool tool because you add your SQL table in here. The tables get created down here, and you can run your queries on those tables right here, and you get a result here. So this is a very cool tool that's all, and it's on runsql.com. So let's get that. Let's see, how did I call this? It should have a, if we want to use these two tables, there should be an export to look at the code of. Let me see. Okay. There should be a way to look at it. It's SQL to generate this table if we wanted to. Again, it's almost like going backwards. Can you close that? I'm surprised it's not showing us here. Save to account. Maybe if I save it to account, sign up to save. Let me try that. Oops, I can't log in with Google, but that's fine. I'm going to create a new password off screen a second. Let me just yeah, got your password, sign up. Okay, let's say company. How did you find Drop SQL? Google search, company size. Okay, and start diagramming. Here we go. So let's say blog, because it's kind of like a blog design. And let's say if we can export them now, or what happens. Tag new version, and we'll save. So it's saved it. And let's go to share, export. Let's see. Export the schema of your database diagram as DDL. Yep, database description language, I think that stood for. So I think that's what we want. Because I want it as code, and then I could embed it in here. So it's done that there. So I'm going to try to open it. Perfect. Here we go. So as you can see here, our first table, create users. This guy is right here with the correct column definitions. So let's make the user's primary key as ID, and then we've got the user profiles right here, and then it's doing the alter tables to add those constraints as unique or foreign keys. Yes, so adding the unique did make it a foreign key. Cool, that looks fine. So let's try to use it now. Go in here. Now this is in Postgres, so it should work. Now the syntax slightly different in here. So I'm going to paste it here, then I'm going to tweak it. So the first table, so they don't have create tables or wait a minute, what are these? Users and post. All right, okay. So they've reset it to do their own thing. So we just want username and and the ID. So we'll use that. 2, we want profiles. So we'll call it profiles instead of posts. Profiles, primary key there, yeah. User ID, yes. And remember when I talked about having the foreign key matching the primary key? So we had the foreign key as a user ID because it was done down here to match the user's table ID to connect them. In Postgres, you could also do it this way. So it's known as a one-to-many relationships, where each user can have many profiles or posts, or they can have many posts. In fact, in this one, we only want them to have one profile. So what we need is a yeah, users can have just one post. So we'll do profiles or profile user. Let's call it users profile. Plural. So profile.user ID. matches our users .id column. So let me have a look. I'll delete this one here. This might be the right syntax, but I might need to double check it after to see how it's done. I don't know if this type of okay, so one user, sorry, one user can have one profile. I think I'll need to flip this. Okay. And then also you can remove the old columns here. And in profile, it looks quite clean. So in profile, we just wanted, let me see, this, yeah, want the description. We could just keep it as body. And we don't want status. So to keep it as small or as little as possible. So let me have a look. Yeah, that looks quite good. Now to test this out. So this is the only reference we've done. And we've got the primary keys in already. That's fine. If I could add this as a foreign key. Yeah, so it would have to be the foreign key. So in here, they don't really, I think that the reference takes care of it. So let's go. And now we've done that, let's try to add in our seed data by using this guy here. So we have a users table. Let's do 5 records. And we'll do Postgres and we'll do seed. Okay, let's do that. The only thing is we've got to watch out for is our columns. So we don't have these many columns. We've obviously got the primary key and username. So I'll add that there as username. To get the same structure, I'm going to remove these guys. So ID, username, user1, and that's all we have. We don't have email, age, or anything else. We could do a timestamp, I guess. Do you have a timestamp in here? Created at, let's add that in there. I guess having time is always good. Created at, okay, the type, current timestamp. Let's do, this may bring issues, but we'll try it anyway. Date, time, current timestamp. I wonder if it has a date. Let's find it out. So in Postgres, all you do is Google Postgres and type in the function and go to the documentation and it will tell you what it does. So it says shows, let's search for it here. Current timestamp. So as you can see, dates are quite complex. They've got things like age, clocks, current time, date bin, date add. So you've got to be really specific and careful which one you use. So current timestamp, it says, so you can see they've even got parameters for the current timestamp, which we're not using. That we're using just this one here. It just says current timestamp. It gives you the current date and time at the start of the transaction. So it means when you call, when you update, tweak your record, that's when the current timestamp, that will be the current timestamp, right? And the format looks like this. They've given you here the year, the month, the date, the time, hour, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, and I don't know what that last bit is. So let's copy that a second. And so this should be insertable. Let's see, in fact, date time 2. So is it date time 1 or date time 2? And then that's the other thing you've got to find out. It needs to be inserted as a date time. And they're broken down. As you can see, again, the actual value has to match the format. So it gets, you can call it, but it gets inserted as a date time, not date interval, not date integer. So add a time of day to a date. So believe date time 1 or 2 should work. And one final check, date time. We got date time 1. I've got date time. Let's have a look. They've only talked about it once. Yeah, let's just try it anyway and see date time. Now, we don't need 20. I don't know what this is. So we'll insert one record first to see how that looks like in the users table here. So I'm gonna remove these. We'll set them to null, I should say. Generative data. Okay, let's try it and see. Run our query. So it tells you date time does not exist. Okay, so it could be it's available in Postgres, but not in this website's definitions. So date time 1. Let's try that. And it says date time 1 does not exist as well. So most cases you have to get away with varchar. Insert as more expressions and target columns. So this normally means these are your expressions, the values, and it's got more than the target columns, which is these. So we'll do a quick count. We've got IDs 1, username 2, created at 3. And we've got a D1 username. Our created at is last, so we're not inserting the email address. And it's also good practice to use email address instead of users. And you come to find this out when you build real systems and design these data models and databases and tables. Because if you have a user, it's really not usable apart from displaying that name only, that username. Whereas an email, you can display the email as the username. You could cut the at part of the email address and use that as the username. You could also use that for login with as the username, for communication, for authentication, and more. Okay, so just be wary of that. And let's run it this time. And it says permission denied for table users. So I'm going to remove these. Permission denied. That's interesting. So maybe we're not allowed to insert from this way. Let me remove these and try again. Cut. Let's try it again. Run the query again. Again, it says permission denied for table users. D. Could it be that we have our our references, meaning we need to insert the post first or at the same time? Let me remove this to C. The same thing. So let's find out what that means. So this looks like it's part of these row security, create, insert. Okay, let's just do insert, Postgres, insert, permission denied. It's better to go to a different website sometimes because the actual engine developers, which was that Postgres website, go into a lot more technical details, whereas your issue might be isolated. Permission denied. Maybe I think we might not be allowed to run insert statements because of security on that website. Let's see. Let's grant. Yeah, it looks like it might be that. And I'll try to do this first. If this doesn't work, we'll just use their sample data. And we'll insert manually. Okay, so let's get this guy out of here. And the role, let's say app users, insert on table name, let's say users. Grant select, insert, yep, grant users to username. It could be anyone. Let's try this first. I'm expecting it to fail. There you go. Yeah, because we don't have the actual control and access to this engine that's controlled by runsql.com behind the scenes. We can't do inserts through scripting, it looks like, and for good reason, because of security. But anyway, we will add our data in manually. So we'll just add it in. I mean, it's not a lot. Okay, add it in here quickly anyway. So in users, we'll add them first, add a new role, one. We'll get that username here, user one. And created app, we'll just put in the timestamp. Let's get the format correct. Oh, that timestamp from Postgres, because we're dealing with Postgres database. Current date time. Here we go. So let's go for this version here. This should work, or something even. Yeah, that should work. Okay. And let's see if that pulls back correctly. Get user or users. So and then the next step, you'd run your SQL query. So we'll do select from. So select all which means all columns with the asterisk from users. This should return user one. And they're there. We could add user two. And we'll paste in that same time. We'll just change it a bit. To 2026. Okay, and now we should see the two users. And then we've got user one and two. So this is how databases work, data sets at their core, and how you model data. Okay, hopefully that's very useful to you guys as well. And you do the same for profile and then link them. So if you want to see that, let's do that here just now. So we'll do my profile page. And let's say this will give him an ID. Now this is an ID for the profiles table, but we need to know which user's profile it is. So we'll give it to user two, who is user two here. We'll give them that ID, and that should match. And then a second profile, we'll give it to user one. My profile two. That's the correct two. And two. So now, if we want to view the profiles, we could do select all profiles just to view them first. There we go. But if you were to log in, so to synthesize a login, or sort of virtualize a login process, so the user will log in to the and to see the profile page. What the query will look like is like this. You do select profile, let's say body, and that will go into the text or the page of your app or website or workflow. Select body from profile table, because we're there. We want one of these bodies. But to know which one you need to tell it which user logged in. So we'll do where user ID, let's say it's user one who logged in, and we'll say user one. So we should see my profile page. And if now, let's say user two logs in, this guy here, you just pass in the user ID to profile table this time. And there you go. So there you have it. I may have gone a bit too in depth for some of you, but I guess fundamentals are fundamentals, and you can't really go forward until you learn some of the basics, some of the groundings, the foundations of what's going on behind the scenes of our AI tools, AI automation tools, our workflow tools. So I hope that's useful and helpful. Ease Cloud, SQL generator, Dillinger Markdown, runsql.com, and drawsql.app. Super useful tools, which I'm sure I'll be using when I'm needing to use them for a project every day. So save them in your dev tools bookmarks. So until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this. Pass it to your friends, your co-workers, your family, colleagues, and your pet hamster. I'm sure they'll enjoy this too. Bye for now.